My name is Glenn Gow. Today, I'm going to talk about how to change your brain for higher performance, for more happiness. Let's start with an exercise. Imagine you're with someone, a coworker, someone who reports to you, maybe even a family member, and you discover that they haven't done something you really wanted done. It could be a trivial thing. They could have showed up late. They could have not sent you an email. Maybe they didn't bring the right salad dressing to your party. When you are upset, the question is, when your expectations are not met, the question is, how do you react? The way humans react is automatic. There is nothing you can do about the way you feel when something negative happens. The reason for this is that your brain is already wired, let's call them neural pathways, to react in certain ways in certain situations. Many of these neural pathways are created from the old brain called the amygdala. This part of the brain was designed to protect us. It reacts immediately, in milliseconds. There's nothing you can do about the way it reacts. Some of the other neural pathways are created when we're young children and we learn about how the world works. We learn about what works for us. These are instantaneous responses. Now, how can we do things differently if we can't control the way we act? We can control the way we respond. The response can be different from how you feel in the moment. So how do we do this? There are three ways, three important things to consider if you want to change your brain. The first is observe. The second is to pause. And the third is to choose. Let's talk about each of those. I'm offering a complimentary coaching session to CEOs. If you're accepted, you'll receive a one-on-one coaching session with me at absolutely no cost or obligation. Due to my current commitments, I'm only able to accept a modest number of requests for coaching. During the coaching session, we'll immediately go to work and address your highest priority challenges. You will walk away with ways to begin solving your biggest problems. And you'll get a sense for whether or not we're a fit for each other. To see if you qualify for this coaching session, visit the website currently showing on your screen, or click the link in the description below. Thank you. To observe, I want you to imagine there's a camera on the wall behind you or on the ceiling behind you, and it's watching you all the time. This camera can see what you're doing. It can hear what you're saying. It can even understand what you're thinking. And way off in a distant room, behind a big flat panel monitor, is the observer. And the observer is you. Now you have an opportunity to observe what's happening and say to yourself, isn't it interesting I reacted this way? Isn't it interesting I have these particular neural pathways that cause me to feel this way? Now, when I work with my CEOs, I call these neural pathways, for the most part, success patterns. After all, you don't get to be a CEO unless you have very powerful success patterns. Ways of doing things that consistently work until they don't. So what we need to recognize is that we need to change these neural pathways. We need to change these success patterns. But it's not easy to do that. We don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, things aren't working exactly the way I'd like them to. Today's the day I'm going to change. This is not the way we normally think. And yet, this is exactly what I'm going to suggest we do. Let's use an example where somebody that's important to you in your life really lets you down. And you feel it when they let you down. And in that moment, you might be very angry at this person. In that moment, you might want to do bad things to this person. You certainly feel bad thoughts about them. What we're going to learn to do in that moment is first to observe and say, isn't it interesting I feel this way? Next, we're going to learn how to pause. And then finally, to choose. So in this situation, if we can pause and say, isn't it interesting that I reacted in an angry way? One way to pause is to take a deep breath, literally. Pause after you feel what you feel. You pause and you say to yourself, I can choose a different response. I can choose maybe to be curious. I can choose to ask questions of this person. Why didn't this happen? I might even have some empathy for this person. That different pathway is the beginning of creating new neural pathways, new powerful ways of being, better ways of being than we might have been in the past. How then do we really pause? Observing, I understand. How do we get to the pause? The best way to get to the pause is to learn how to meditate. Meditation does two things for you related to this. One, it teaches you how to breathe. Very importantly, you're going to want to breathe to enable that pause to happen. The other thing it does is it helps you recognize that you, in the universe, your problems are pretty small issues. They're really not that big a deal. And it helps to tamp down how you feel when you're upset, to recognize, ultimately, my issues are not all that important. So, the observer, the pause, and when you pause, you now have an opportunity to choose a different way of thinking. I'm going to use an example. Before COVID, I used to give a lot of talks. I would stand up on stage and have many thousands of people in the audience, and I started to notice something. I started to notice, at least it appeared to me, that I was the oldest person in the room. And my reaction to that was upsetting. I thought, oh my God, the average age of people in Silicon Valley is 26. No one's going to want to listen to me. What could I possibly have to say that would cause people to stand up and really pay attention to what I have to say? It was uncomfortable. But then I recognized through the observer mode that this is what I was feeling. I was feeling down on myself. So I took a very deep breath and I paused. And I said to myself, is there a more effective way to deal with how I'm feeling? Is there another set of pathways I can take now that'll cause me to be more powerful, more positive, more impactful? And in that moment, I stepped back and looked at the audience and I said, I am the wisest and most experienced person in the room. Everybody's going to want to listen to what I have to say. I have amazing experience and stories that I can tell that can educate everybody in the room. I'm going to be the most popular, high-value speaker at this entire conference. Now, that shift was critically important to my ability to perform in the moment. And that's what I was looking for, the ability to perform in that moment. But what's really interesting about this is it became even bigger for me afterward, because I recognized that this view of the world where I have a great deal of valuable experience led me to the CEO coaching that I do today. I want to encourage all of you to learn how to observe how you're feeling in the moment, to learn how to pause, and to learn how to choose a different pathway, not the one you've always chosen, a better pathway, by taking the time to do that. So when things happen to you and you go automatically to your success patterns, the things that you use that seem to work most of the time, observe, say, isn't it interesting that I'm reacting that way? Then pause, very simply, a deep breath. And finally, choose a more powerful, more positive, more impactful way of addressing the situation in front of you. It will change your life. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Glenn Gow.